Hello, I'm Alex Doty. I'm going to propose that we put a Mac lab in the new Allen Technical Campus of Mac computers for public use for college students. So our whole entire school is very, very full of access in terms of equipment, facilities, computers, computer labs. The Allen Technical Campus itself is fantastic, for lack of a better word, in terms of access to educational technology, like to work on automotive mechanics in cars, or biomedical health devices, or industrial robotics and automation, or electronics and electrical equipment, construction, wiring, heat, AC units. The technical campus is the face of educational access in Collin County, and for some reason it doesn't have a single accessible Mac available in it, but there is a very nice computer lab, and I think that there should be some Macs in that lab, and I will start by explaining why. So I'm a second year electrical engineering technology student here at Collin. I will be getting that associates in electrical engineering at the end of the spring semester. I plan to transfer to UT Dallas for a bachelor's in electrical engineering this summer or fall semester of next year. And once upon a time, in the spring of 2020, I began to take an interest in music recording, and so I signed up for audio engineering here at Collin, and the class was awesome. It was excellent. The commercial music studio at the Spring Creek campus is cool, and the classes were taught in that studio, but up front, our professor was very quaint and notifying us that, like a lot of professional creative industries and industry work, software is access, is the work, is doing the thing. You can't edit graphics without Photoshop. You can't record music without a program called Pro Tools, which is very expensive and for all intents and purposes should be run on Macs. And so that's what most students had to figure out, whether it was using the Mac lab at the Spring Creek campus or a Mac lab of their own and going out and buying a computer. And it is not just music students that have this problem. You could do some video editing in Final Cut Pro, an Apple program, graphic design, all types of work apart from audio is in a large part done in environments only available on Mac computers, which is the reason the Spring Creek campus has a Mac lab. Now that it's the year 2021, going on 22, the Mac's lineup is quite a bit generationally ahead of where they were when we built the last Mac lab. The processors in the new Macs are made by Apple as opposed to Intel, and when a company makes the hardware and the software and the computer and like the chip in the computer, they can have a very efficiently integrated design. So like Macs these days are gonna blow away Macs of just last year while using a fraction of the energy required and the power. So it's a no-brainer that those upgrades will eventually be made. And this new technical campus, being the face of educational access, should have these already in it. And on the second floor of building C, room 10 is labeled the construction computer lab. And they're really nice computers. We could use a few of them in like the Spring Creek campus, for example. We could take a row of these computers out of the computer lab, which as far as I know is not booked for entire classes. Those computers, move them to another campus where there's room for them and put some Macs in their place that would follow my itemized budget here on page 5. You can get a 24-inch iMac, and this is a bundle sort of deal where you get a computer that is in the screen, the display, and you get a mouse, trackpad, keyboard, and what they call a Pro Apps bundle for education, which is Final Cut, Logic Pro, some graphics, animation software, included in that cost of about $2,000 per Mac. And you can just set those up in place of the PCs, and then you have to worry about, as far as software licenses go, I would think that you'd want Photoshop and for graphics and like Pro Tools for music and audio. But that's about as far as I go. I don't know what other software we'd have installed in our computer labs, but right away, that's not too much of a cost. I think for about 8 Macs in this lab, you could spend about $20,000 and get all of the software that I've talked about here today and the cost to set them up. And it could be done in just a couple semesters. My task schedule has this taking all the way until the end of fall semester 2022, and that, in my opinion, is being extremely generous. These quotes and equipment, hardware, everything could, I'm sure, be itemized and a budget submitted, request for proposals submitted by the end of the winter semester in like a month maybe, and then we could get an approved budget probably by the end of the spring semester, and then hardware could be acquired and set up by the summer semester of 2022. We could have this Mac lab available in one half of the construction computer lab. But in reality, the software that we'd want available on these computers, the reason they're there in the first place is to have access to, all the different stuff that you can only get on a Mac. And I've only named Photoshop and Pro Tools that we would have to add on to this, and I'm sure there's many others. A majority of the cost of this lab is going to eventually be in the software that I have not yet named and I'm not aware of. But that's what's keeping the budgets so low and keeping the cost realistically that we could do this for like the price of a new car. That might inflate given software licensing costs because it could be quite expensive. But that's a lot of the reason why this needs to be publicly available to Collins students on behalf of the college. You could book time in it in a binder in half-an-hour segments like the Spring Creek Mac Lab does. That was a game changer to be able to go in there and just work on Pro Tools projects, not have to go buy a Mac. But that's just one class, in my experience, which would require that. And so they had access to that at the campus. And we should definitely bring that access to the new campus because that's where it belongs. And this level of access in these Macs are going to be much more efficient than anything I could do at the Spring Creek campus lab. Although it is nice to have, I think we should keep them all. Maybe upgrade the Spring Creek one and install this new one. It wouldn't be a bad idea. And in the end, it would exponentially expand the set of things that students could do or ideas that they could have that the ball could immediately be rolling on. And someone could go from a proposed graphic or like website or blog or some form of like video editing or idea they had from a friend who they didn't know that they could easily make that happen on behest of the Mac Lab. The amount of things that the average incoming college freshman could make a reality would explode if we put just a couple Macs in this computer lab, which is why it should happen. Pro Tools, my experience was I needed to get Pro Tools running. That would have been a breeze comparatively if my idea here were put in place. You could just walk in there, get things up and running, and things would run relatively fast. And as far as I know, this computer lab is free and open. I just walked into it today. Everything was, dark to flip on the lights. There's no one there, no one to book time or, what am I looking for? Chaperone, like the students using it. You could just walk in and everything was on. I don't know if we'd want it to stay that way. I don't think I would. But yeah, the price of a basic Mac that I'd want installed here is like $1,400. That's not the best deal to get. I think the best deal would be to bundle the education apps with it, get the mouse and keyboard and stuff, and then we could get those up and operational by like the end of next summer semester. And as students come in and they're needing software, we could then just have a continuous ongoing proposal of like software licensing quotes that we could get. Students need Adobe Creative Cloud. Well, that's going to cost just $300 a year per shared device, and then we would just add that on. So the operating cost of this computer lab would grow over time with the software that we installed on it. But that's the point of the whole deal, and why I think we should make this happen for our students. Thank you for your time. Please have sound.